Touchdown, Chargers!
What's up, guys? Welcome into a Week 15 edition of Chargers Weekly. Chris Hayre here with you, as always, joined by the voice of the Chargers, Matt Money Smith. We're turning the page on the Chiefs. The Bucs come to town on Sunday. A lot to get into, Money, with Justin Herbert injury news and obviously kind of scouting the Bucs. But let's just rewind to Arrowhead. Seventh straight loss to the Chiefs. A very similar ending. And in the locker room, guys didn't want moral victories. Derwin James wasn't here for it. Khalil Mack certainly wasn't here for it. So I ask you, you've covered a number of these. What makes you think that this Jim Harbaugh version of the Chargers is closer to making this thing a true rivalry?
It's a great question because, it's a sweep again at the hands of the Chiefs. Not at full strength, obviously, in the first one without their tackles, with Derwin James on suspension, with Herbert hobbled, having just come out of a walking boot. The team felt like it was a lot more healthy going into this one. You're still down really your primary pass-catching weapon and someone who I thought would have had a huge role in that game just because, Shamari Connor's kind of been the guy that's been picked on all season long and work in the middle of that field. Plus, it might have dedicated Trent McDuffie to him, providing other options. And I'm just kind of going through all of that to say I don't think it mattered. I think that it was still just a very similar game to what we've seen. The Chiefs, I think that what we tend to talk about is how, the Chargers didn't play. They didn't have all of these guys. And we say it about every team. And I think you come to the realization of, I think the Chiefs tend to dictate terms. They get you to play the game on their terms. They are not an explosive offense right now. I was not impressed with what they had out there offensively. I thought the Chargers defense did a great job of controlling them. I mean, they shut them out in the third quarter. They held them to 6 points in the second half. They held them really to 6 points in the first half, saved that 2-minute drill they ran. So I think it kind of comes down to the same thing, and it's just winning time, executing the way the Chiefs execute when you got to have it on that last drive when you felt like, man, this is a touchdown drive, not a field goal drive, or it feels like that's going to be the difference in this game. And I think that's just sort of the hump you have to get over. And so I set all that up to say I still feel like this team is a year ahead, like based on where the cap was, the weapons they have, the way they want to build this thing. It feels like they're doing the best they can with what they have, and I just feel like it's going to look so different a year or two from now. But to me, that's ultimately what and why they've won 15 consecutive one-score games. They dictate terms, they execute when they have to, and they win games.
Yeah, everybody's been calling the Chiefs lucky this year, and there's been a degree of luck with some of these plays and what's happened in the Raiders game, for instance, and in the Broncos game, the Panthers game where it's 27-27. But when you're in as many situations as the Chiefs are, in late-game situations, and you master them, you're not just lucky. You're good. You're masters of the moment. And that 3rd and 10 on that final drive, that was Patrick Mahomes at his absolute best in a clutch situation.
Falling away, throwing a strike.
And nobody else makes that play. No other quarterback in football makes that play. And then the 3rd and 7, where Kelsey catches it, so an opportunity to ice the game. These are situations that the Chiefs have been in all season long, and really most of Mahomes' career if they're not blowing teams out. And nobody in the NFL has been able to stop it. Or it's not just the Charger problem, it's an NFL problem against these Chiefs.
Yeah, that's one that, when we're doing this, recording this pod, Jesse Minter hasn't spoken yet. I wish he had, just so because he's so good at just being very upfront. He's not averse to talking about specific plays, but I'd be interested to kind of hear what his thoughts were on that because, Derwin had been busting up Travis Kelce the whole game. Kelce could not get off of Derwin. He basically had him. If you watch
mic'd
him
up was great.
Yeah, the mic'd up was great. But if you watch every snap, when Derwin's in press, Kelce can't get away from him. So it's kind of a curious situation where, okay, it's 3rd and 7. You know where Mahomes likes to go. So it's kind of like the Princess Bride. Well, I know that I couldn't drink that because you think that I'm going to switch. So I feel like it's a little bit of that. It's like, well, Derwin's been dominating, so do I really think Patrick's going to look at Kelce if I put Derwin? No. And I think there's scar tissue and there's muscle memory. And what does Mahomes do in those situations? He runs.
Yeah.
Like you have it covered, and then all of a sudden you're one man short, and he runs and he picks up the first down.
And he may have run. He may have run in that situation.
And it's like, damn, he did it again. And so I feel like maybe the defense's most valuable resource in that moment, Derwin, was sort of committed to trying to prevent that. So, it's a tough one. It's a tough way because I really wonder just the way they had played. The offense had played in the second half. They had found this rhythm. They had found, Stone Smart and Q and Palmer had their best games of the season. And Kamani Vidal is now running explosively. And it just felt like, okay, we got momentum back, and I would have loved to have seen the ball back in Herbert's hands with, a minute 15 left or what it might have been to see if you could have got a game-winning field goal there.
Defense was awesome.
Yeah.
When you hold the Chiefs to 19 points, you're supposed to win that football game. And for as good as the Chargers' offense was in the second half, it's that slow start, and it was 6 quarters without an offensive touchdown for this offense.
Yeah.
So it seems like sometimes they disappear, and then when they're hot, they're hot. And I think that was the difference in the game, was really the offense not being able to get anything going in that first half. I look at that missed opportunity with Joshua Palmer that probably should have been a touchdown.
Yeah, it would have been.
Those plays happen, and I get it, but just no sustained success, no sustained drives in that first half.
Right. So, and then you look at the third quarter, and it's the best third quarter they played all season. It's not even close, and they're able to give their defense the rest in that third quarter when they held the ball for nearly 12 minutes. So you kind of find some things, you make up for some things on the Josh Palmer throw, and the miss. The way I kind of taste it, it's a missed opportunity. Could have changed the dynamic of the game, and you get this explosive, and now you're up, and you've announced, hey, I know we don't have Ladd, but we're here, and you're going to have to stop us. But so there's that side of it. The other side is, Josh got open. Josh ran the route. Josh had his best game of the year. Quentin had his best game of his career against the Chiefs. I know the stats won't say, he's had a 100-yard game before. He's had a 2-touchdown game before. But just the way he played, especially coming off of the Atlanta game, the drops in the Baltimore game seemed like it affected him and maybe had some carryover to Atlanta. For him to catch that ball over the middle,
toughness, man.
Hold on to it, take the hit, get the extra 15. For him to finally fight through contact, to get that flag, it's something that kind of, I feel like this coaching staff's been working on him with. Like, you've got the nuances of being a wide receiver. It's not just being big and fast and being able to have yak, but like to recognize, okay, this guy you're battling, you've got to fight through him in order to get the flag. They're not just going to throw it if you're just kind of hand fighting. And so to get that PI, to get the ad lib on the right sideline, just things that won't show up in the box score. Right sideline, when Joe Alt gets flagged for holding, when Herbert's under duress, to kind of recognize, okay, I got to help my quarterback out, do a little subtle offensive shove of the corner and sprint back and catch that pass, which would have gone for 28. Like, those are things that you can pack and bring with you. And so, they lost, but maybe now we can end the conversation of, or end the social media memes about Q dropping balls. We can end the where is Josh Palmer? No one can do anything but Ladd McConkey. Like, those are things that I think can have genuine momentum for the final 4 games of the year.
And when you're trying to figure out your offensive identity anyway in year one, and you don't have J.K. Dobbins in the backfield, and you don't have Ladd McConkey as a late-minute scratch. He was a true game-time decision. I get it. But it's not easy to adjust on the fly against the Super Bowl champs. Will Dissly goes out of the game. That second half, I thought we saw some rhythm to the running game finally with Kimani Vidal. And I hope that Vidal gets the touches that Dobbins got, and you keep Gus Edwards doing what he does. And then Stone Smart with 2 huge catches in this game. Three big ones. Two big ones on those 2 touchdown drives. That you look at the Bucs, and we'll get into the Bucs. They have no linebackers. All right, they have no linebackers at all. Can Stone Smart maybe do something in the absence of Dissly here on Sunday?
Yeah, look, and I think if you ask again, unfortunately, Greg Roman's going to talk, after we're doing this pod. But the question has to be asked is, why has this guy not been getting reps? You do not have an athletic tight end on this team. I understand your tight ends need to block, but that's why you signed Hayden Hurst. And that's what he was supposed to provide, and unfortunately took that injury in that preseason game, and he's just never been the same since. But you said it with Tampa. We saw it going in. DJ called it. He's like, this is Stone Smart game. They are weak in the middle of the field. They give up big games to tight ends, and it took an injury to Dissly to get him out there. Now, the good thing is, you heard what Coach Harbaugh said after the game. It's like, guy got an opportunity, lived up to it. We're going to probably start seeing a lot more Stone Smart, so that's the good. And we've known that. I mean, guy's a former quarterback. It's like, he's an athletic guy, and for whatever reason, he had 3 catches for 44 yards coming into this one. He leaves with 3 catches and 54 yards in this game alone and 2 huge catches on those touchdown drives. So, it's trying to figure your personnel out. It's trying to figure out what you have, what the best combinations are. But that's another great thing that came out of this game is hopefully Herbert likes his tight ends. He liked Gerald Everett last year. He liked Jared Cook the year before. He loved Hayden Hurst his rookie year. Like, I get it. You want your tight ends to be able to block, and Tucker Fisk is getting his reps, and Eric Tomlinson's getting reps, and Will Dissly, of course, is getting reps and a ton of targets. But it's like, hey, man, this guy likes to throw to tight ends. Let's give him some of these options for him to be able to take advantage of what he likes to do.
That's why we're seeing some of these early mock drafts, the Penn State tight end mock to the Chargers.
He's ridiculous.
He's ridiculous. I think he had 85 catches against USC.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, that's – and I think it just speaks to – look how important that position is in the league. I mean, it is what Brock Bowers is doing, and
Crazy.
A guy that we talked about prior to the draft, thinking that the Chargers might be picking somewhere in that 10 to 15 range, and that's where he would end up landing. But like what he's doing, what George Kittle did to the Bears last week, what Sam Laporte has been able to do for the Lions, and how Dalton Kincaid, even though he's been out, and Dalton Knox just changed that Buffalo defense. And they're so important. It's such an important position, especially when you have a quarterback like Herbert that likes to use it. And I think it's going to be an important position, especially with the, and I don't know how they're going to play it. I would guess it's probably Eric Tomlinson that gets called up just because he was sort of the next guy in line off the practice squad. But that's, to me, that leads me to think when you're playing 12, it's going to be Tucker Fisk and Stone Smart, or probably Eric Tomlinson and Stone Smart is how they're going to, or maybe they play more 13, and it's all 3 of them. Because Tucker, on that Quinton touchdown, man, Tucker was, co-MVP of that play. When you watch how much he cleaned out blocking, he's really turned into a heck of a player. Motion the heck out of him, ask him to block, at multiple levels, and he's really good at executing that.
You saw what Brock Bowers did to the Bucs last week, and obviously maybe a big spot for Stone Smart. Stone Smart and Taylor Heineke, both Old Dominion quarterbacks.
Yeah.
And we saw Taylor in the game for a couple of snaps, and you don't want to see that because that means something happened to Justin Herbert, and Justin is on the injury report. Again, this is one of those things about Thursday is we don't know what the status is today. You would assume for as tough as Justin is, he'll play Sunday, dealing with an ankle and a thigh. And I thought before the Chiefs game Monday that they were going to unleash Herbert on the ground, and I think maybe his first rush is where he hurt that ankle and really wasn't able to do much on the ground after that. Again, it's just tough luck with injuries with Justin this year, but he always pushes through these things, man.
Yeah, look, it's not ideal going into this matchup just because of where the pass rush. I mean, look, the Bucs are going to blitz the hell out of them, and it's because it's what they've done really the last few weeks. They've just kind of dialed up their blitzes, but their primary pass rush comes on the inside, and that's what essentially got them against the Chiefs. The interior was a little bit soft in that game. Tershawn Wharton with 2. Chris Jones seemingly was putting Trey on skates for a pretty good chunk of that game, which is understandable. He's the best defensive tackle in the game at pass rushing defensive tackle. But no rest for the weary. Now you got Kalijah Cansey, you got Vita Vea. You got to figure that riddle out. And when you have Justin, who might be nursing an ankle, he's going to, chances are he's going to have a handful of snaps where pressure's right in his lap, and they're going to be firing 5-6 guys because that's what Todd Bowles does. He got away from it a little bit earlier this year, but these last few weeks, and I think it's so, everybody wants to bag on the Chargers for the teams they've beaten or the schedule they've played. It's like, yeah, okay, well, I know the Tampa defense has been a lot better the last 3 weeks. Raiders, Giants, Panthers, so it's like I don't know how much of that is part and parcel to the teams they faced, specifically the Giants and the Raiders offenses that they faced. I know the Panthers offense has been a little bit better and played pretty well against them at times, but they're still it's a really good team. I don't think people circled this game and was like, oh wow, this is going to be a tough game for the Chargers, but it is. It's going to be a tough game. They're a good team. It's a good offense. Their running game is one of the best. It'll probably be, you might even be able to make a case that it's as challenging, if not more challenging, than the Baltimore game when it comes to running the football. Rachaad White and Bucky Irving, if he's healthy, man, they are a load. And they put both of them in the backfield, and you don't know which way they're going to go. Those guys are good yard after contact. They're good missed tackles. So it's lining up where this is going to be a tough one.
Yeah, but before we get into Tampa, just to kind of put a bow on Kansas City, and, we were just talking, the Chargers have an opportunity, with Thursday Night Football next week. They can get to 10 wins if they win the next two and lock up a playoff spot. Listen, who knows? We may not see the Chiefs until 2025, but there's a good chance if you win your first playoff game, you're going back to Arrowhead.
Yeah.
So I know that those guys have that in the back of their minds. Like, listen, we can't say anything. We keep losing to these guys. But who knows? Maybe that opportunity comes when it matters the most.
Well, just to kind of, again, to pull some more positives out of that game, think about 11 quarterback hits in the first half. Ties an NFL record for the last, 10 years, I think. So plant that seed, plant nefarious seeds in the back of Mahomes' brain that you got your ass kicked, over and over. He was taking shots. I mean, shots when he was letting go of the ball. And so you hope that there's that memory there, that there's a little bit of, I got to get rid of this ball a little bit quicker. And again, those pass catchers, there was not a lot there. I thought the Chargers defensive backs did a great job. Think about that hit that Cam Hart put on DeAndre Hopkins down the field. Big play. That's something to remember, thinking about how physical they played. So there's a lot where you can walk out of that game, even though you lost and you're a little upset about it, that, like you said, if in fact there is a third meeting, there's sort of some things that the Chiefs got to figure out, that they got to think about. Their tackles have been bad all year, and it's probably one of the worst games they've had, with what Bosa and Mack and Thule and all those Bud Dupree were able to do.
Speaking of rookie corners, Tarheeb Still going to join us later in the podcast. But first, we're going to talk about the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, who beat the Raiders last week, and they are right in the mix in that NFC
and they're
South.
Leading the division.
They're leading the division. They're a game up. The Falcons have the tiebreaker on them, so this is a playoff game for the Bucs. The thing about the Bucs, on Wednesday, 19 players on their injured list, 10 DNPs, including Mike Evans, including Bucky Irving, who you talked about. Antoine Winfield's not going to play in this game. Right. Jordan Whitehead, the safety's not going to play in this game. I mentioned they have no linebackers. They had one linebacker on the field for 25 plays last week.
Yeah.
So all that said, Baker Mayfield makes plays, but he's also prone to turning the ball over. 3 turnovers last week against the Raiders.
Yeah, he'll sell some throws.
Yeah. First glance look at the Bucs. You mentioned it's going to be tough, especially stopping the run.
Right. So to me, I think a little bit about the Arizona game and how James Conner was able to kind of take advantage of the Chargers defense and sort of set the tone offensively and keep them on their heels a little bit. I think that played into how that game sort of got away from them. That's the one thing I'd be a little concerned with. Like, hey, let's start there. Second thing is Mike Evans is in the conversation as the best receiver in the league. Like, he's that good. I don't think he gets anywhere near the credit just because he's got speed. He's comfortable. He has no issues with press. He doesn't play as well against zone as he does man. He eats up man because he's a power forward that can run. But it does look like since his return from injury that they're forcing him the ball. They want to keep the
streak. He hasn't practiced this week.
I think that could be part of it. Like, you know what? Let's just rest him. Let's just keep him. He and Baker got this connection. They're good. And I think they're going to force – they want him to get to 1,000 yards. They want him to break this record of most consecutive seasons with 1,000 yards. And so that's something you can maybe take advantage of, that Baker will give you some. He'll give you a couple. They're a much better run-blocking line than a pass-blocking line. The interior, man, watching it last couple weeks, that interior, you can play games and it's a sieve, and you can force him. He's not a big quarterback, so he's not able to really see over the line. So now you're flushing him out, even though Tristan Wirfs is really good. He's one of the best left tackles. What are you doing? If you can get push, if you can get Puna, it could be a Tart game, a lot of get Morgan Fox game, and just get him to have to move and feed him into Bosa and feed him into Mack and Thule and all that. Like this, to me, DJ calls it the Ferrari package. This could be a really good Ferrari package game for Jesse Minter to have, Mack and maybe let's just say it's Mack. Let's go Thule, Bud and Joey, or Bud's on the outside, Thule and Joey are on the inside. That could be a really fun little wrinkle that we could see in this game just because of how soft the interior of that line has been and what you can do to Baker if you can just get him off his spot and get him to sail a few of those throws. But they run a ton of motion. I mean, my gosh, just watching last couple games, it's like every single play, Sterling Shepard's in motion or Mack is in motion. So there's challenges. But the challenge to me starts with the run game. They've got to figure out how to slow that thing down because so much of it is predicated out of them having those two backs there at the same time, and you have no idea which way they're going and how good they are at forcing missed tackles and yards after contact.
Looking at the injury report on Thursday, since the Bucs are on the East Coast, looked like Irving didn't practice again today with back tightness. But you mentioned Rachaad White; he could take the load.
Yeah.
He's an excellent back, and that's been the bread and butter of the Bucs all season is their ability to run the football, set things up for Baker on the outside. Cade Otton's another guy, the tight end, who Baker likes to get to as well. Big third down guy. So I think the one glaring difference between these two teams is the ability to protect the football. The Chargers have 6 turnovers this year. The Bucs have 18.
Yeah.
So if that's one thing, it may not be sexy every time the Chargers play offense, but they don't turn the ball over.
Right.
And that's a big ingredient to winning football.
Yeah. And like we said, Baker will give you some. I don't know what his interception totals are. I think it's probably 13.
I think it's 13.
Like yeah. Bucky Irving's put it on the ground a few times already. So yeah, win the turnover battle. That's what you got to do, and that's what they did against Atlanta, and that's what led to a win. It's a really, really good offense. Like I said, it's a good offense. Liam Cohen's doing. It's going to be fun. This is like two of your bright, young. Nobody knew their names maybe before the season, but everybody certainly knows their names now. Liam Cohen versus Jesse Minter. In that OC versus DC matchup when the Tampa offense is on the field. And then I think the big question becomes, what kind of game is this for the Tampa defense? As I mentioned, they allow 13 to the Raiders. They allow 7 to the Giants. They hold San Francisco to 23. But then you go through and you see, they gave up, what'd they give up? 36 to Atlanta, 41 to Baltimore, 31 to Atlanta the second time, 30 to the Chiefs that the Chargers just held to a game-winning field goal in 19. So that's... It's been weird. This Tampa team's been really strange in terms of that 4-game losing streak, 6 of 8 versus what we've seen these last 3 weeks. Are these last 3 weeks a product of level of competition, Giants, Panthers, Raiders, or is it a product of them having figured something out, the defense becoming more dominant, the running game really coming into its own? Don't know. I don't know. I'm anxious to see because, like I said, there's enough there. Now, look. They hung 31 on Baltimore. They stuck Atlanta for 26, 24 against Kansas City. So, it took them to overtime. So, yeah, the offense, I think the offense is going to travel. I think they'll be able to make some plays, and it'll come down to turnovers. Can you force, kind of like Atlanta.
Yeah.
They moved the ball, but you were able to force turnovers.
Yeah. The one thing about the defense of the Bucs, just listening to some of the folks down there on the podcast down there, they're very concerned about their safeties.
Yeah.
They have.
Well, yeah, they lose Winfield.
You lose Winfield. Is it Whitehead too?
Whitehead.
You lose Whitehead. So I just go back to that play with Palmer in the first half. Like maybe it's an opportunity for Justin to take some shots. You want to control the game and you want to run the football with Vidal and Gus, but the fact that they are so depleted at linebacker and safety, I look at it being a potential Stone Smart game. Hopefully Ladd is back and can find some pockets in that secondary too. But the beauty of playing offense here with Justin Herbert is you could do anything, right? You can do anything. And if there's an opportunity to take some shots down the field, I know it's not something that you see on a week-to-week basis here, but maybe because of the opponent, because they are traveling, I don't think – I heard the stat that Todd Bowles has never won a road AFC game.
Okay.
So 4-13 against the AFC. When you're game planning against non-NFC opponents, it's just different. So, again, I'm trying to shed some positivity on the Chargers side, but you never know.
Yeah, look, their corners are good. Jamel Dean's a good corner. I think in terms of like those explosive plays, that's why it's going to be important to get this run game going. They've got to get the run game going. They've got to stick with it. They've got to pick up those 4 yards on first down and be able to commit to it because they're going to blitz. I mean, they just look at the splits for Herbert under pressure versus not under pressure, and it's not necessarily a Justin Herbert stat. It's an offense stat. Are his guys able to get off press coverage? Are they able to get open early if pressure's coming for him to deliver the ball? And if they're not, he's just going to eat it and take the sack because of how good the defense has played. So I think for people that are drawing this narrative, what's happened to Herbert when he's under pressure? Well, guys aren't open. And he's only got 1 interception, and the defense is the number 1 scoring defense in the league, and they've been in every single game this season. So it's that Harbaugh philosophy of tread water, hold your opponent in the fourth quarter, pull them under, and Herbert subscribed to it. Now, if guys are flashing open, yeah, he's going to deliver the ball, and he's going to put the ball. It's not like he didn't put the ball in danger's way last week. I mean, you're talking about those stone smart 50-50 balls downfield. You're talking about Quentin over the middle, going into double coverage. Like, he's willing to put it in peril's path. But they're going to blitz, which, again, run right into it. You've got to run into the blitz and get them to stop and get them to be on their heels instead of on their toes, sending 5 and 6 guys every single snap. And I think the other thing on the other side of the ball, Chris, is in terms of Jesse Minter, how good he is, after the snap, disguising, Kirk thought, when we talked about the turnovers from Kirk and what he thought it was compared to what it was. And I think you can win some of those battles against Baker just because he's kind of that swagger, like, I just fit this thing right in there and my guy will get it. And it's like, oh, it's not what you thought you saw, and bang, here's an interception, here's a turnover, here's a sack you didn't feel coming from the other side because you thought they were rushing for. They overloaded the other side, and now it's a helmet in the middle of your back and the ball's on the ground. So, because I think he's fumbled 6 or 7 times this season as well. So that it's going to be that to me is sort of like what we're looking at.
What's cool is we've seen 3 iterations of Baker Mayfield against these Chargers. You remember that Browns game?
Awesome.
It was one of the best games at
SoFi.
Yeah. And then we saw him with the Rams, where he had just gotten there, and they were, they weren't very good, and the Chargers dominate them. But to think the guy got into the league in 2018, and he's now with his fourth team, third that the Chargers will see at SoFi Stadium.
Yeah.
You brought up a good point about Baker, though. For as solid of a season as he's having, when you have injuries to Mike Evans and maybe he's not 100%,
no Chris Godwin.
He will make mistakes.
Yeah.
And you can capitalize on those mistakes. And the guy that we're going to talk to in Tarheeb Still took advantage of Kirk Cousins. I'm fascinated to hear from Tarheeb, just not only playing against Baker Mayfield, but Mike Evans, a guy who's going to be a gold jacket guy, who's won a Super Bowl, who is the model of consistency. And I think he needs just over 100 yards a game to get 1,000.
That's exactly right.
For every and if he missed 3 or 4 games.
Yeah.
It's unbelievable what he's doing.
But they're forcing him the ball. Like, they want him to get that record. So, and if you're going to force a ball to a guy, not a bad guy to force the ball.
No, not at all.
So it's kind of like it works, both ways. The one other thing too, and I'm sure Tarheeb will get into this when we talk to him as we kind of wrap it up and get ready to sit down with him, is, the one thing you can do to counter, this Bucs team is they're going to throw a lot of 3 receivers out there. They're not playing a lot of 2 tight ends. Now, they will play some 21 with the 2 backs with Rachaad White and with Bucky Irving in the backfield, and Sean Tucker for that matter. Feels like they have a lot of those 2 back, a lot of 21 for them. Yeah. So when you have those 3 receiver sets, like, the Chargers are different than everybody else because their big nickel is Derwin James. So it's yes, they can take advantage of big nickel and run the ball into it and have this effective run game. But now you're running the ball into a big nickel with Derwin, and that's where you can separate and play in nickel for the majority of the game, yet at the same time not sacrifice as much, because your third safety, your big nickel, is like a freaking linebacker and hits like a Mack truck.
Yeah.
So that's where maybe you can get that schematic advantage of what the Bucs have been able to take advantage of these last few games that other teams just don't have at Derwin.
How about this McMillan kid from Washington, the rookie, and another impressive rookie to go with Irving? A couple Pac-12 guys dominating with Tampa.
Absolutely, and you'll see him and Shepard in motion on every single snap, and they find ways to get him open. And it's like there's so much focus on the backfield because of those backs, on Mike Evans because they're forcing him the ball, that you look up and you're like, holy cow, McMillan and Shepard had 60 yards apiece in this game and like 4 first downs. And they do Liam Cohen's doing a heck of a job. I mean, an absolute heck of a job with what he has, considering, Chris Godwin went down. He's been able to just have guys step in. And that's kind of what we're talking about with the Chargers, right? Yeah, no Ladd McConkey. What's going to happen? Q plays his best game of his career. Josh plays the best game of the season. Stone Smart has one of the best games of his career. And it's what Coach Harbaugh's talked about. Opportunity, man. When opportunity shows up, raise your hand and take it.
That's it. Let's wrap it up on this. How important money are these next 2 games? Because we're fully expecting the Chargers to make the postseason, right?
Yeah.
How important is it to win these next 2, kind of be in control of your playoff seeding before you play New England and Vegas, and that'll allow guys to get healthy. Hopefully get Dobbins back. Hopefully Ladd he get healthy. Justin, all his bumps and bruises. I find the next 2 weeks so critical to beat good teams because you want to sweep the Broncos. You want to take care of a Bucs team who's fully expected to go to the playoffs too, but also just for the long haul, just to get ready for January the right way.
Yeah. So, this is the one thing, like for people that are starting to freak out, Charger fans that have some history and think about the past and how things can unravel. I would say this. The Chargers did what I had hoped they would do over the previous 4, the gauntlet. Yeah. Can you split the gauntlet? Can you win 1 of 2 against the Ravens and Bengals at home? Can you win 1 of 2 against the Falcons and Chiefs on the road? If you can do that, I feel really good about their playoff chances. Now, moving forward, I think asking for a sweep of these Final 4 is a lot. I just do. I think that Tampa's a really good offense. Their defense is playing better. The Broncos' defense is exceptional. Sean Payton's a heck of a play caller. And then you got to go into New England on December 29th and play in Foxborough, which is a weird place to play. Who knows what that's going to feel like. Witchcraft and all that crap that happens in the forest on your way there. I don't know. And then, God forbid, man, that the playoffs are in the balance when they got to go to Vegas on week 18. But so that all being said, right? I think 3 of 4. If they can win 3 of 4, I think they end up as the 5 seed. I think 11 games will put them in the 5 seed at 11-7.
Sends you to Houston.
Yeah, I feel like I should say it. If you can win, so that would put them at what 11? I'm sorry, 11-6. Yeah, so 3 and 4. 11-6, I think, puts you in the 5 because, and I think the key with the 5 too is, I won't be surprised if the 6 or the 7 wins a game. Like if it's Baltimore, if it's Denver, if one of those 2 ends up knocking off the team where they're traveling to, and then they're going to Kansas City, and then you're going to maybe Buffalo or Pittsburgh. So, because I just look at what's like if we're talking about actually missing the playoffs, you've got to miss the playoffs. The Chargers would have to go 2-2 and lose a tiebreaker to a team that goes 4-0, either the Colts, who are in Denver this week, and after that have the Titans, Giants, Jaguars. So that's going to be huge for the Colts. If they win in Denver, they can absolutely win out and go 10-7. But then you're going to have the Broncos in a very similar situation, and the Dolphins, who have to win out, and their schedule is considerably. Again, it's at Texans, then they get the 49ers. Then they go to Cleveland, they go to the Jets. So it lays out where you can make a case that each of those teams can win out. And that's kind of why I say, all right, 3 of 4. Get to 11-6, and I feel like you're locked. I think 10-7 could maybe get a little tricky with some tiebreakers.
Can we have fun with some hypotheticals? Because you just mentioned 6 or 7, if that's the Ravens and Broncos, how capable they are of winning a playoff game. That would give the Chargers a second-round playoff game, wouldn't it? because the Chiefs would play
if both of them won.
So you would play the 65 or 60.
Yes, I mean that would be something. But like look at the Ravens, right? So they're Giants, then they get Steelers at home, then 2 Houston, and then the Browns. And then you think about the Broncos. Obviously, it's easy to dispatch of them because you win the head-to-head.
Yeah.
You sweep the season.
They got a big one Sunday against the Colts.
And then after us, they get the Bengals, and who knows what's happening with Buffalo and Pittsburgh and whether or not the Chiefs are playing guys in Week 18. Otherwise, Chiefs could just lay down, rest their guys, and Broncos walk into the playoffs. I don't like look. I like being able to just put blinders on, and the Chargers can do that. The Chargers can put blinders on. They can win out, and I feel like they'll that they can end up with that. They can end up with the 5 seed at worst 6.
I could say confidently we're the only 2 people in the building talking about anything other than the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. All right, let's get into our interview with rookie corner Tarheeb Still. On Location, official hospitality partner of the NFL and the LA Chargers, offering Chargers fans the opportunity to lock in verified Super Bowl tickets and access to exclusive pregame parties with an official VIP ticket package. Take your pick from the best seats at Caesars Superdome, including the most coveted seats at the 50-yard line, and exclusive access from private pregame parties featuring big-name entertainment, chef-inspired food, and top-shelf bar to post-game field celebrations. Incredible experiences are coming in hot. 5-star hospitality. Go first class all the way from the moment you arrive in New Orleans. Enjoy personalized concierge services, excursion planning, reserved parking, a VIP gifting suite, and many more premier perks. Visit onlocationexp.com/SBLIX or call 877-373-5062 to secure your ticket packages today. All right, so as promised, rookie corner Tarheeb Still joins us ahead of Bucs, Chargers. And Tarheeb, let's just go back to last Sunday. You got your first taste of Chargers-Chiefs at Arrowhead. What was the atmosphere like for you?
I would just say really good atmosphere. It was really loud. Good thing we ducked the cold. It wasn't too cold out there, so that was a good part. But I would just say it's a fun environment to play in.
You're 12 games in now, so kind of a college football season. You know, you got 4 to go. A lot of people talk about that rookie wall and level of violence is kind of raised a notch or so. How are you feeling, and how's everything going right now for you?
I would just say right now I'm doing good because early on I really got with the vets and found a routine. Really just something to do week by week, stay in the routine so the season flows. So the week is just working, going to practice, stuff like that, taking care of my body, and then so I can perform on Sundays. So I found the routine early. I've been sticking with it. So
what is it? Like, is it ice? Is it stem and ice? Is it nutrition? Like, what do you think is kind of important to try to stay, like you said, in that flow?
One, I would just say knowing when it's time to like obviously you have time where you have to watch your film, you do your football things, but really just making sure your mental health is good. And then when it comes to taking care of your body, I go to see a bodywork lady. Her name is Emily. Probably like 2-3 times a week. It just depends on how I feel. And then just watching film while I'm either there or after that. And then, like I said, just knowing when to take care of your mental, when to just get away from all of that, probably play the game or something. But that's the routine I've been on the past like 10, 11, 12 weeks, something like that.
You mentioned the vets, Tarheeb. In particular, I'd love to learn how Derwin has impacted you, because this is a guy we saw come in as a rookie in 2018, and he felt like a vet from the beginning. How has Derwin impacted not only you, but guys like Cam and some of the other guys in the secondary?
I would just say from day one, he's helped a lot. Really just knowing, well, first just telling not even me, like Cam or young guys, that we're here, so we're good enough. So don't overthink that part. And then the next part of it is he really just helping us really figure out the playbook, or really how to play certain techniques. Because if you watch film, he does a lot of good things on film, a lot of stuff that everyone can learn from. So really just talking ball, talking about life, really just anything. He's a good resource, a person you could talk to, a person that wants to help. So I would just say he's done a great job of helping not only me, but Cam and other young guys really just come along and really feel more confident out there.
That's great. When you go back and you watch film, I'm just kind of thinking of a couple plays that are popping in to my brain. But I think one specifically is, it's a Cam Hart play, but just breaking up that pass on that sideline against DeAndre Hopkins. And I think about you and obviously the couple interceptions against Atlanta. When you go back, is it different watching film of yourself in the NFL because you're just here and you're looking at the uniforms and you're looking at the names on the back of the jerseys? Does that, I know it's a dumb question, but does it kind of set in like, oh yeah, I'm not in a Maryland uniform anymore. I'm not playing Mercer or whatever, but it's the Falcons and it's the Chiefs.
I would just say, because my first game was the first time we played Kansas City, so that was my first time going out there. So, beginning of the week, going into it, I'm like, okay, we're playing Pat Mahomes, we're playing the Chiefs, stuff like that. But then once you really get out there, you're not thinking about the other guys that's on the field. You're just thinking okay, this is the call. I got to execute this call. I'm lined up here. I got to cover this guy, do this. So I don't think in the moment I'm not really thinking about it. But obviously, growing up, all the oldest guys that I used to watch, on TV, watching the NFL, and then playing against them is kind of cool. But in the moment of the game, I don't really think about it, but maybe after I blow.
When you watch film and you see oh, that's my name on the back of that jersey.
Yeah,
and that's Drake London right there.
It's actually kind of, I don't know, it hit me, but it hasn't really hit me yet. But I would just say it's like a dream. Right. It's like, dang, I'm really in the NFL. I'm really out there. It's just a crazy, weird feeling.
But it's not too big for you too. And we were just talking Mike Evans. Mike Evans is gonna be a gold jacket, and you guys you'll probably line up against him on Sunday.
Yeah.
I mean, the fact that you are guarding some guys who are gonna be in Canton one day. versus, listen, I'm not discounting any wide receivers in the ACC for sure, because there's a lot of them that came out of the ACC, Big Ten. Big Ten. I know. I can't.
I know. You're a Maryland guy, so it's hard.
I grew up in the Maryland days when it was Gary Williams and Juan Dixon and ACC. Yeah, Big Ten. Okay. So, but the difference between a college wide receiver versus a guy like Mike Evans, like, how do you approach the game? You kind of alluded to it. Hey, you don't make it about the guy, but like in hindsight, you have to look back and be like, man, I just can't believe I guarded Mike Evans today,
Right. I would just say we do a great job preparing. So knowing the opponent, so knowing that we're going to go against him, he's a very good receiver, like you said. He does a lot of things well. So you just have to know what he does well, and then know what he doesn't do well, what he struggles at. So then really just be aware of that. But I would say it's really the same every week, like preparation, and then the little things that playing DB, like holding your leverage, having good eyes, and stuff like that can set you up for success. So a lot of times it's really not who you play, it's how you play it. But also you do have to be aware of who you're playing, because like Mike Evans, taller guy, catch radius, throw the ball out there, you know what I'm saying? Different stuff like that. So, I mean, like you said, all those things you said are true, but it comes down to like holding leverage, playing good technique, and things like that.
How different is it playing outside versus playing in the slot? I mean, Derwin's kind of been playing that big nickel, it seems like almost every game now. But in terms of what they had initially maybe thought that you were going to do to contribute to what you've now been sort of pushed into to some degree, is it a lot of technique, things that you need to prep for? Is it a lot different if you're playing outside versus playing in the slot?
It is a lot different because not every, like some teams they move their receivers around. Sometimes guys just stay on the outside. You got to go up there, get in the guy's face, press him. You got to be able to hold your own on the island when we go single high and the safety's in the middle of the field, and everybody knows it's man coverage. You got to win your one-on-one. The nickel, you're kind of closer to the safety, so it's kind of things like that. But I would just say it's really just playing ball. But then the defense we play is so interchangeable. Guys do a whole bunch of different stuff. So really knowing nickel and knowing corner is it's just swapping roles. So a lot of things we do, we just swap roles, different stuff like that. So, I mean, it has been different playing outside. You have to have big vision to see what's really going on. But I think the coaches do a good job of really preparing me to have me see all the different looks that I would see. So, yeah.
Tarheeb, you have to have confidence as a corner. I know you certainly had confidence coming into this, but sometimes you need to see it to truly believe it. Was there a moment during the season that you had a game or a play or a series of plays where it kind of clicked and said, you know what, I do belong at this level? I mean, I could think of Cleveland to Atlanta, but I'm sure there was a moment where you said, okay, I'm ready for this.
I would just say it even came before a game. So like leading up to me being able to get in there and get plays and snaps in, Derwin used to just say like, bro, you're good enough. Like, you can do it. So like him just saying that and knowing that he's not just like, even other people would say that. So like knowing that other people had that kind of like confidence and faith in me, I had to be confident in myself. I'm already confident, but just knowing that, like the reassurance of other people saying that and they see it outside looking in, it just gave me a lot of confidence moving forward. And then, like you said, like going out there on the field and making plays, that helps your confidence a lot. So I can't think of one play particular, but I would definitely say after I caught my first interception, it was like, okay, like I can really make plays on this level. I
remember that, I think it was the tip to Elijah in Cleveland. I mean, that was a big-time play, man. I mean, that's the one that kind of stands out to me. And obviously, there's been countless. You were AFC Defensive Player of the Week, for goodness sakes. But that Cleveland game in particular, I was like, man, this kid belongs.
That play is actually kind of crazy because all throughout that week in practice, me and Coach Klink, he would tell me, like, because my drop wasn't good enough, really. I wasn't getting to the spot. I wasn't setting up fast enough. And he kept getting on me about it, He's like, it's going to show up in the game. Like, there's always something he says in film, like, this is going to happen in the game. And we're like, okay. Yeah. It happened. So it was really just being ready for that moment and all the reps I had in practice. So then when it happened, it was kind of like being out there on the practice field. The ball came, tipped it, he caught it. It was just crazy. So.
That's awesome.
Yeah, you got a bunch, and a lot of them aren't interceptions or splash plays. I think that breakup, that PBU against Jamar Chase on that 3rd and 7, I think it was your left sideline.
Yeah.
Just closing quick. Like, I don't even know why I brought that up. It just popped into my head. But you were talking about responsibilities, and it does feel like this is a front office, it's a coaching staff that they want you to be interchangeable. They want you to be able to play safety. They want you to be able to play nickel. They want you to be able to play outside, which then when I'm watching games back, feels like you're kind of playing all of those things. And that then leads me to ask, it's probably like a lot of things you got to remember, and there's a lot of communication out there, and there's post-snap rules. Is that the case? Do they make it simple? How hard is it to kind of get comfortable? Here we are in week 15 now. Do you feel totally settled in? How much responsibility is on you guys on that back end?
I would say obviously it's a lot of responsibility because you have to keep the roof on the defense. But like I said before, like the coaches do a great job of explaining how all the coverages really kind of work together in a way. So if you just know the different techniques and not necessarily trying to study the call, because there's a million different calls, but there's only so many techniques. So if you learn and master the techniques, you can play any call because they're all interchangeable. So I think the coaches do a great job of really setting us up to like, okay, yeah, on this play, this is DJ doing this, but it could be you. So you should know this. Different stuff like that. So I would just say the coaches do a great job of preparing us, but then also letting us see a position that we might be in, even if we didn't necessarily get that rep in practice. And then guys, I think guys are just comfortable and confident back there, knowing that we can go out there and make plays. But really, it's just a great job when the coaches are preparing us.
I'm thinking of that, like the first interception against Atlanta, where you're carrying the guy who's clearing out. I don't remember who it was. And
I think it was actually Mooney.
That's right. Mooney was doing the clear out, and then you had the 7 coming underneath. And then are you already ready to break off that, or do you have an eye on Elijah's? He's starting to point up there. Like, how does that first interception come to be? Is that because that's kind of what, when you say technique, I start thinking about, and those things are happening inside of 2.5 seconds.
Yeah. It actually started with Christian all the way across the field. So he alerted it to Elijah. DJ called out the formation. Elijah alerts it to me. It's just an alert, though. Not we're going to overplay it and do this. It's just alerted, be ready for this. It might happen. And that play, it did happen. So we were all on the same page. Christian got the communication to Elijah. The ball snaps. He talks to him. Like a second later, Elijah push, drop. I drop the route, come off, make a play. So it's really just pre-snap communication, knowing what's about to happen, and then not overplaying it, but then just being ready when you see it. And that's what happened that play. And it was just great communication, starting with Christian from the backside.
Tarheeb, I hear you talk about the coaches and your fellow teammates in the secondary. You can't control where you're drafted, right? Especially the 5th round. Do you ever think about what a perfect fit this has been for you? Like, you could have gone anywhere, but the fact that you have Coach Harbaugh, Coach Mentor, veterans like Derwin and Elijah, and just the opportunity to play and play at a high level.
So I would just say, like, taking you back to like draft day, when all of that was happening, I was just kind of frustrated. I would just say, as anybody would, just saying, I felt like I should have went higher, but ultimately at the end of the day, I did fall in a perfect situation. And I don't want to use perfect as like, but like I fell in a great situation to where I have great coaches, great veterans. I mean, obviously the position that I was able to make an impact on the field, being able to go and play. But I would just say, really, looking back on it, it all worked out. Yeah, so it's actually kind of like, it's relieving, feels good, because I could have been anywhere else, but I think I fell to the perfect situation.
And the fact that Cam goes the same round, right? How has it been having a guy like Cam doing this with you, starting and having the same amount of playing time, and you guys kind of feeding off each other? So
they made us roommates in camp. So we were in the hotel for a long time. So me and him used to just talk all the time about different stuff, but obviously about football. And back then we were just 2 young rookies just trying to any way to play. So at first he started off playing first. He was playing special teams, stuff like that. And then we used to always just tell each other, like, when we got a chance, we just got to make it count. And then we both got a chance, and then we never really looked back. But we know it's a lot that we still have to do, and there's still a lot of steps to take and keep growing. But it's something we talked about early on when we first got here, was whenever we got a chance, just go out there, go hard, make an impact, and then just whatever's happened, it's going to happen. So it feels good. And then me and Cam are like really close. So
I feel like we've celebrated you enough that we can now just kind of ask this question, because was last week your first PI penalty, I think, of the season? I think it was, right?
So I didn't. It's something.
But I want to ask, like, when you see the flag come out,
yeah,
because when you look back on it, it's like, I don't know, man.
It's crazy.
He's fast. He can help kind of lead to those penalties just because of that burst and your arms kind of wear. But it's one of those that I thought could be a 50-50 call. Felt like you guys were kind of fighting the whole game, and then it comes out there. So what's going on with you when you see that flag come out? That was the first one, right?
Yeah. So actually, all right, so me knowing in the back of my mind going into that game, okay, I don't have any DBIs, I don't have any holdings, I don't have none of that. So that's not something I would talk about, like say out loud to anybody. That's just something that's it's just in the back of my mind. But I didn't really have to do that. I didn't really have to put my left arm on him. I mean, I did. I didn't think, if you watch the play, he didn't really turn or nothing. I didn't impede his process of running the route. But, I mean, the official called it. I couldn't believe it. But
did you go talk to the official?
Nah, I didn't really want to say nothing to him.
Right.
I just took it for what it was. Coach Klink just told me don't grab him, play better. Really just mirror him, just watch him. But it was the first one. I was actually kind of upset about it for like 30 seconds, and I just flushed it. I let it go, but good call by the official. I just got to be better with my hands.
Right. Like I said, you're playing a lot. You're playing good receivers. And when I was going through the film, I was like, oh, wow, that was his first one. I just would assumed, and then because when you look at opponent quarterback rating against, you got one of the best numbers on the team. You got PBUs. Like, it's not like they're not throwing the ball at you or they're not targeting your receivers, which you would assume in this league. Look, it's hard to be a defensive back, man. There's a lot of flags out there. So congratulations on your first one and being able to move past it, man.
Yeah, I got you. Hopefully that's the last one.
Exactly right.
Moving into this last quarter of the season, big games from here on out, man. And it's an interesting week because you got 2 home games within a span of 4 or 5 days.
Yeah.
Just looking at this Bucs team on film, Baker Mayfield obviously been doing it for a long time here with a bunch of different teams. What do you see out of this Bucs offense?
I would say that it's a really good offense we're going to face. Baker Mayfield is a really good player. He's able to make all the throws across the field. He's able to extend the plays in the pocket, also great pocket awareness. He could also run. He's not scared to put his head down, try to get the first down, things like that. Like you said before, they have Mike Evans outside, really good receiver. They also have 2 really good running backs. They do well getting them the ball in space. So we really just it comes down to our details, knowing what we have to do, but then also formation recognition, just trying to be ahead of what's going on, making sure we're communicating, talking, straining to get to the ball, everybody to the ball. And then tackling. That's really a big point. So we know that they're a really good team. They're able to do a lot of good things well, but really it comes down to us just playing our kind of football, really just making sure we're being physical, running to the ball, tackling, holding leverage outside, things like that.
Last thing for you. You said tackling. That's what it looks like in this game. There's a ton of missed tackles, ton of yards after contact, specifically with the backs. And I think people think corners and they just think receivers. They don't think about, if you can't tackle, they're going to come at you and they're going to force you to tackle. So what have you done since you got to the NFL to become a better tackler? Are you putting your hands in rice, or what do you do to try to get that thing right?
Really, I would say the first thing is you have to be willing to. So it's really a mindset. You have to be willing to go out there. Can't be scared to get your face dirty. Go out there and tackle. But then also, I think Coach Klink does a good job of putting us in different situations that you might have to come down, tackle in space, know which leverage that you have. And then he really just says put your chest on them. So don't try to just duck your head and not know what you're hitting. So really just try to stay up, put your chest on them, and drive your feet. So I think all the defensive coaches do a good job of emphasizing that, tackling. But really it comes down to first you have to want to, and then you have to know which leverage, knowing when you have a guy inside, knowing how to approach the tackle. And then the biggest thing is just don't stop your feet. Try to run through it, be full speed, because that's when a lot of the cutback stuff happens. So,
all right.
Tarheeb, this has been an awesome season so far. So many fun storylines, but you're at the top of the list, man. It's been an awesome story to see you develop and progress each and every week. We appreciate you, man.
Thank you. I appreciate you guys for having me on.
Absolutely.
Thanks, Tarheeb.
All right, guys, that's going to do it for us. For Tarheeb and Money, I'm Chris. This has been Chargers Weekly.